everyone. Thank you for coming to my channel, and I appreciate everyone that has taken time to listen to my story and things that I am discussing. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. Please like, share, and subscribe. Today, I'm going to tell you a story about Herbert W. Armstrong, World Church of God, and Lester Roloff. And the reason I'm mainly going to tell this story is because you got to understand the past to understand today, I feel, with all this stuff that's going on in our laws and legislation and craziness, I guess, of Menge, whatever you want to call it. I call it religious right-wing GOP. And I wanted to talk about Big Sandy, Texas. As you know, David Green from Hobby Lobby bought Big Sandy, Texas in 2000, I think it was. He started like 1997, 98. But anyway, he purchased it in 2000. And ended up giving it to the IBLP, Bill Garther, which is where the Duggards are now. But Big Sandy has one long history that people probably don't know about. And I would like to share our side that we were involved in Corpus Christi, Texas, 1977. Big Sandy, Texas. Boy, when we heard that, we was all so excited. We're going to move, Lester Roloff. We're moving. No more, you know, the state and all the inspections and the lawsuits. We were just going to go, and he said we were going to be a Christian city. The first Christian city for the Christian nation. And that's what we were getting groomed as, I feel very strongly. I mean, we have biblical school, be good wives, and submit to your husband. As you know, the fundamentalist, laws or rules are the same no matter where. Some are stricter than others, but most of them are about the same. Don't show your shoulders, no makeup, nothing worldly. And that's something that I will never forget. Is Lester Roloff looking at us and saying, we're going to move. We're going to Big Sandy, Texas. Herbert W. Armstrong, the Ambassador College. And, we had no worldly contact, so we really didn't know what was going on. The only thing we knew is what Lester Roloff told us himself. And so we're all thinking we're going to move and stuff. And he needed $10 million, and which came into a crazy story, which he did get close to it, like 6.4, I think he got in a week's time, or 2 weeks' time. I mean, he came really close to it. But we was going to move there and be the first Christian city. And he told us that we would never need nothing from the world. What they didn't have there, we were going to build. If they needed a gas station, we was going to build a gas station. We would never need nothing from the world again. That would be our home, and that's where we were going to live, until we got older and I got married and made children and, just keep on growing and growing and growing on the compound. And now that I sit back, as a little girl, I was scared to death. I'm thinking, oh my God, I ain't going to see my grandma or my mom or nobody ever again. I'm going to go now to Big Sandy, Texas, which I had no idea what it was. And I was 13 years old and going to be locked up. Besides being in a fence, we're going to have a whole place to live, our own little city. And that was the goal, the Christian city, the first Christian city. But what happened is kind of a crazy story. And a lot of people I don't think, realize how much the past affects today. Now, as I said, David Green had bought it in 2000. And Big Sandy got, once or twice, I think, sold and closed down, kept coming back. I mean, Big Sandy, Texas, them people's got to think, what in the world is going on? This is what, the third cult that has taken over the place. As you know, Herbert W. Armstrong, they became called the Doomsday Cult. Everybody says Bill Garther is a cult, which I feel Bill Garther took a little bit of everybody's teaching and brought into one and made his own and expanded to huge. I mean, I was really surprised when I seen how huge that Bill Garther really got, because I live about 30 minutes from Bill Garther, and even as a child, my mom just, thank God my mom didn't like that church. We ended up going to a smaller IFB church, very small church with ACE schooling, the same rules and everything, but, very small church. And to see how all this connected into all these politics And now he gets us, the Super Bowl ads. Are you kidding me? The guy from Hobby Lobby in Big Sandy, Texas, I mean, has got all these billions of putting in for these Super Bowl ads. And I'm thinking, Lord, how mercy. If you got that kind of money to throw away for that, you can help a lot more people, in different ways than going to Big Sandy, Texas. But, so what happened was Jerry Falwell started coming around, really like 76, 77 around the farm that I remember. Then we went up to one of his rallies for abortion. That's how I found out what an abortion was. I didn't know what an abortion was. I had no clue. And I learned very quickly, and both sides, and I seen how they played each other, both sides, with the evangelicals and the politicians. You give me this, the barter system. And they still use the barter system today, as you know, with 2016 election. But William F. Menge is the one who was on Jerry Falwell's board. And he ended up, I think he ended up trying to sell it to a couple people. But anyway, Lester Roloff was like the third. And if you ever hear Lester Roloff talking about, there was 3 crooks. I got involved with 3 crooks. Do you want me to, I'm not going to identify them, but there were 3 crooks. This is what he's talking about with Falwell, with William F. Menge. And you might remember the Penthouse article that Jerry Falwell Sr. sued to get dismissed, and he didn't want it published. That Penthouse article, which I have, states what I'm talking about. I mean, I saved it because, it talks about us and our history. So, and it was just kind of crazy. And with Donald Trump mentioning Pat Roberts, I'm like, holy crap, he thinks that's a good person. But, that's my own opinion. Everybody's got their own opinion. And some of them I don't feel are good people. And he's one of them. But I got the article, remember when he was trying to run for president, and, just different types of things. And Jerry Falwell. So he got on the board with Jerry Falwell, and he tried to sell Big Sandy, Texas, a couple, I think James Robinson and a couple other people, and it didn't happen. So next thing you know, the third one was Lester Roloff. Lester Roloff put $500,000 down, and he had it till like January, I think, beginning of January to pay off the rest, and this was like November, December. I mean, it was quick. And I remember him coming back, and we were all counting the money because, I don't know if you know anything about Lester Roloff, but he carries 5-gallon buckets, donation buckets, and all this money came, and what was coming over the airwave, to get us to a safer spot than Corpus Christi, and to make our Christian city. So we was counting all that money, and I know it was a little over $6 million, like $6.4 million he had. So when he went to go close the deal, hold and behold, there was no deal. And on top of it is the craziest thing you ever want to hear, but I'm not really going to get into too many details of it. But there was a farming accident, and William F. Menge, that took Roloff $500,000, had a farming accident by himself. And he did make it. And I'm not going to say what happened. You're going to have to read the article yourself, because I don't want to get kicked off my second YouTube I'm trying. And Big Sandy played a big role in my life, and knowing the history behind it, that someone was, took some money for someone, they were unalive. It's a deep, crazy story, and the names are mentioned in Penthouse. And names are mentioned in Penthouse magazine, and I'll post a little bit, but I don't want to get into much of it. But my friend Jason on Hammer Podcast, he did read the article out loud in Lester's Corner one time, because he's like, does anybody know what Lester Roloff's talking about here? 3 crooks, who's the 3? Oh, I said, I do. I know exactly what it is, because I lived it. And a lot of people will say, well, how do you know this stuff? Where did you find this stuff? I lived it. I was there. I don't have to know nothing. And it's about time that the real history got told, besides people running off with one sentence, making up lies, and just exaggerating the truth. We had no worldly contact. We were moving to Big Sandy, Texas, and we was being the Christian city. but it didn't turn out like that, so life went on. You know, thank God. We would probably never got loose. But now IFB's there. I mean, so you see how it all still intertangles with the Christian right. It's all still right there. They're all tight-knit. People say independent fundamental Baptists, oh, they're on their own. They're, you know, they're independent. Believe me, they are a very tight community. Well, they were back then, 70s and 80s. You know, very tight community. Now you got the new IFB fighting with the old IFB. I'm like, holy crap. You know, you guys are wackadoodles for real. You know, I don't even know what to even explain it. But, you know, at first they stood really strong about separation of church and state. I mean, that's all we heard, church and state. And next thing you know, we got so many politicians and we're so embedded with them. Then when we started they started making deals with everybody. And then Jerry Falwell jumps involved, you know. I mean, he just, when we flipped Texas from Democrat to Republican in 1979 with Bill Clemens, I mean, it all went nuts then. I mean, it all just went nuts. And 6 months later, the moral morality, you know, was made. But I don't want, he's not my, Jerry Falwell isn't my favorite person, I will have to say. Some of them are just snakes. They're all snakes, but, you know, some are more bigger snakes than others. And to me, I think he did a lot of dirt and hurt a lot of people when there was no need to, all for power and greed. You know, he didn't have to do a lot of the stuff that he did. And like Donald Howard, you know, making him step down from ACE school after he built that. I mean, there's just a lot of things that happened. Like when Roloff died, he stepped up and, you know, he was involved with the homes, and he just jumped in anything to me to make more power and greed. That's what Jerry Falwell did. And a lot of that had to do with David Gibbs Jr. too, Christian Law Associated, because he was everybody's attorney and got everybody connected and stuff like that. But I just wanted to tell you my little story about Big Sandy, Texas, and becoming the Christian city. And also with the Herbert and also with Herbert W. Armstrong. There's a lot that people don't understand with the Pentecostal and Baptist. It's really kind of, I'm going to say IFB because that's what I was, kind of close-knitted. Because actually, John R. Rice, he believed in speaking in tongues. He had that little bit of Pentecostal still in his belief, which broke off in 1958. Jack Hyles, Lester Roloff, you know, Lee Robinson, and all of them broke off to the IFB. And from, you know, the civil rights movement and Billy Graham, if you want to know the truth. And I don't know what people, I've heard so many different stories, but that's what it was over. And they made segregation schools, Christian academies and Christian schools. It wasn't, you know, to be nice. Believe me, it was not, because they taught hate. And I don't have hate in my heart. And I just can't hate somebody that I don't even know, or hate somebody because they look different or they're not up to what your standard is. I mean, who are you to make a standard to begin with? We're all sinners come short of the glory of God, Romans 3:23. So, you know, we all sin. We're all not perfect. But yet, people want to hold others to that standard when they're not perfect either. A bunch of mistakes have been made all through history and life due to Christianity, toxic Christian beliefs. You know, the values of them just got twisted somewhere. And when you start taking away a woman and demeaning her and belittling her because she's just a woman, and you're telling that woman she has to submit, it's God, men, women, and children, that she's below that. And so many women stay in these abusive relationships. For what? You can get to heaven, I promise you can, without staying beside of a man who is abusive or physically hurts you or your children. God didn't want that. God didn't never choose for a woman to be belittled and mistreated due to toxic religion beliefs.
The World Tomorrow. The Worldwide Church of God presents Herbert W. Armstrong, internationally recognized ambassador for...
And if you have not seen my friend's true documentary on Netflix, Cult of Torture, he was from World Church of God. His mother was. And he ended up getting sent to IFB home, Bethany for boys. And he was sent there for conversion therapy. As you know, they do not believe in that either. There's more hate they spread, and they still spread that today, you know. And if you go back and look at the history, the stuff they said back in 50s and 60s, they're still using the same literature today, you know. You know, life has gone on. The world has moved on. We're not stuck in 1950s no more, you know. We can't. We got to go, and story is on Netflix, Haunted, Cult of Torture, Episode 3, Series 2. And that's a true story. It's been proven. I mean, it's very documented and stuff, because people, I think, look at it and they're like, oh, that's just, you know, not just a horror movie. You know, that stuff doesn't really happen. Yes, that happens. And a lot of people, I had a friend not too long ago who says, what's so wrong with conversion therapy? They go to counseling once a week. It's so much more than going to counseling once a week with these people. It's brutal. It's horrific. And it's got to stop. I mean, there is nothing that we can do to change somebody who they are born with. You are who you are, you know. And I was just a little girl, the confused little girl, you know, that got hurt. And I had to go searching for who I was. And I had to learn how to love myself and respect myself and be the person I was supposed to be before the system demolished me in some place I didn't want to be, you know. And it's just a failed system. All this is failed systems. And now they want to bring conversion therapy back. And, you know, some states are lifting the law after many have fought for the laws to be like that. They're undoing laws, just like with Roe and Wade. A lot of people, oh, you know, we're saving babies. It has nothing to do with saving babies, believe me. That's Jerry Falwell. If he was alive, he would tell you, you know, it's building God's army. And to take the gray away, let me put it like that. And it's sad that people don't know the real history of why things are happening today. You know, people want to follow a belief that they don't even know or understand. They don't even know where it came from, you know, or how it even started. Yes, I mean, Reagan jumped in and got it going a little bit, you know, everybody backed them and stuff, but it was way before Reagan, you know. The Rice family's been fundamentalists, has been in politicians and since the late 1800s. I mean, it's just always been there, and they just built it and built it and built it. And now that it is so big, it don't have nothing to do with religion, saving babies, making the world better. It's all got to do with power and greed and control, and especially to control women and children. And they want corporal punishment and child labor. I mean, we all live that. And, you know, the children with no voice right now, they're living that, you know. You think this stuff just automatically just stopped and disappeared? No, it's getting stronger and stronger, and the schools are getting more hidden way out in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of the woods, and these children are left there, not for weeks, not for months, sometimes years. Many are left there, especially foster kids and adoption. Then you yell, church and state, church and state. We don't take no state money, but yet you take wards of the state, you take foster children. Don't you believe me? They got 3.5 years of my check. They take that money. And as long as you do a community service, you get federal grants from George W. Bush. And every president from him has signed that executive order today. Billions go to these places of religion and churches and schools and wayward homes. Your tax dollars. And children are getting hurt and unalived. And it's time to step up. So if they want church and state into everything, then it all should be equal. Then we need the state in these homes to help these children at least get registered, get oversight, and documented that they're there if they're dropped off from another state. And if they're getting abused, or if they're hungry, or going to school, if they get an education, what child don't deserve an education? That's something that I miss all my life, and I think about it. If only I had got to go to school. If only I got an education, I could have been so much better in life, I feel. And I didn't get that chance. And that's sad that most of these kids are put in these institutions for years, and at 18, boom, you can go now, but you don't know how to drive, you don't know how to do a checkbook, you don't know how to work, you don't know how to do nothing but stay on a routine, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you're on that routine. And there's a pipeline, and that pipeline from the foster care to the state to the penitentiary, it's all connected. Leave our children alone. Just let everybody live their life. If you don't like the way somebody's living, don't work like that. Life is life. And see, I feel God ain't going to be happy with all this. Everybody can shout out to God and Christianity. God's right now looking down and shaking his head and thinking, not again. Here we go again. Evilness, power, and greed. The root of all evil is money, remember? And all these evangelicals and all these people have big money. Texas is one cult to the second cult to the third cult, and now we got it again. And they said Bill Garther went down there like 2015 or 16, and they removed him off the property. I'm like, Jesus Christ, the man built it. At least he built it. That's his whatever you want to call it, cult or religion, whatever you want to call it. But yet here you go again, taking everything this old man in his 80s worked for away, and you're taking all the credit and the profit, Shame on you, Douglas, and Bob Douglas, shame on you. Now you think you're in charge, and you got handed over all that money. Was it like $90 million or something you got in charge of? Boy, that's a big jump in it from a fundamentalist to that, and running Big Sandy, Texas, and the IBLP cult. And politics on top of it. So, he get us right. That man, David Green, you're wrong. You're wrong for embedding and pushing your religion on people. All these people, the 700 Club, Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell, Paul Rurick, all the ones in the very beginning, the Christian right, David Gibbs, all of them. Came together. Larson from Indiana, he really got the rallies going in like 76. All these people came together and wanted politics, but yet yelling church and state. Now we're so embedded. They think it's a Christian nation. They didn't come a Christian. I don't think England put the best people on the boat and sent them over here. I really don't. But, they came here, and ever since they've been here, forcing their beliefs on people, and it's been cruel. I mean, if you go back in time and look at things, it's pretty cruel, and it's time just to accept people for who they are. Stop hating people because someone's different. It is not what God wanted in the Bible, I don't think, and to be mean. Big Sandy, Texas was a big part of my life, like I said. And when I heard that the Garthers were moving to, Big Sandy, it really kind of like, wow, And very many people don't know, Bill Garther had a lot of politicians behind him besides the Duggars. I mean, Sarah Palin, and quite a few actually. But they always have. The right-wing, religious, right-wing GOP has nothing but evangelicals and politicians. There are hardly anybody in between except cult members. And that's all I knew as a child. Evangelicals, politicians, up to presidents. My abuser made it to the White House. So, it's very crazy to think all these churches think they yell, and they're so embedded. And I knew all my life how embedded they were. But I could never get nobody to listen to them. I mean, I lost family over this because they used to say, you don't know the difference between politics and religion. You're right, because there is none. There really isn't. People just think there is, but there really wasn't. I mean, they were always entangled so deep, but it was really kind of silent. It got a little bit more, around Reagan and Bush. Then all of a sudden, boom, here we are, full blast. Took them a long time, 50 years, but it took them a long time. They got everything they needed. They got the right person. They used it as a puppet to get everything they've been planning. Things I heard as a child getting planned has come true now. So it's very crazy to me, actually. But, the Green family, when they gave it over to Bill Garther, I think it, for, the IBLP, the Institute of Bill Garther, a lot of people didn't know, and I don't know exactly how the Green family got in with him, but Bill Garther is another of them people that hurt children and women, and has been, sued and ousted now, but, and another abuser in high power of religion. And it was just nuts to me. When people started talking about Josh Duggar, I didn't know who the Duggars were. I don't watch too much TV. And I definitely wouldn't watch nothing that I thought would trigger me. And that probably would have triggered me, And so, and people get mad because I always say this. And I don't want people to take it wrong. See, I can't really blame Josh Duggar because that's what they know. That's what they're taught. That's what they learned all their life. That's what they saw. Abusers all the time. Women and children. And, the men are so high up here and the women and children are so low. And, how can you be mad at something because the parents taught them that, even though it's disgusting, But, and Josh Duggar, he was all involved with all these politicians too. I mean, everybody knows that. Mike Huckabee, that's another, and, all of them. Roy Moore, every politician is a pedo. He's involved with too. I guess they all flock together. But, it's just a sad situation when they hide between religion and God to hurt children. And that's what they do. That's what they're known for, and people just don't want to face the fact. Now, every day so far, there's been arrests made. Almost every day for the last 2 years. Either a Baptist pastor or somebody. Youth pastor, bus ministry, almost every day there's been. Baptist accountability is here. And I am so happy. I waited many years for this, And this year, but last year at Super Bowl, when all this, He Gets Us came out and stuff, right at the Super Bowl, I went and traced the money, Googled the money. I got it written down somewhere. But anyway, I know he gave like $8 million to the Creation Museum. And that's something I've always wanted to do, is go to the Creation Museum. Because I believed in it for so many years. Until my children got in school and started doing homework. Then I realized, wow, I was lied to even worse than I thought. I mean, my whole life was a lie. Everything I was taught and believed was a lie. We had ACE schooling, so we was never in the world. We were so isolated, Bill Garther's got his own schooling. DeVoe's got her own schooling. Every one of them. Every one of these people, if they didn't make their own schooling, they just combined it, And fundamentalist children were kept at home or in these homes, And they were kept away and separated from the world because it was so bad out there and dangerous. Then when we got 18 and thrown in the world, we got ate up alive. They all came in, and it was like, ooh, you know, because we were so naive and didn't know what was really out there. And it, you know, not too nice. Some, you know, being a naive child. And a lot of children got hurt. A lot of children got hurt back in the day, you know, at homeschooling. You know, some didn't make it, you know. And the biggest case, if anybody is interested, is Esther Combs, Joe Combs, Evangelical Joe Combs, and his wife. They got 179 years for what they did to their daughter. And I've seen many children like that. You know, I live pretty close to it. And it was just, it's so cruel. You know, this corporal punishment on children to break a will of a child. How to train a child, you know. I heard that from Jack Hiles and, you know, other people is more up to date. But I heard it from Jack Hiles. That, you know, from Lester Roloff, but Jack Hiles was the main teacher of it when he came to the farm. And I would just sit there and my mouth dropped. Some of the things that we say, like blanket training. Who puts a baby on a blanket and tells it not to crawl off? Then he would say, and you need to beat him until that baby is black and blue and bruises at least 15 minutes. And you're just sitting there being one of them children that wore them bruises, you know, for many years. You're thinking, wow, you know, this is not going to get no better anytime soon. And as you know, as the politicians and the laws are being passed again, you know, they want corporal punishment. They want child labor. You know, child labor was, you know, we've been trying to fight against that for decades and nothing's been done, you know. See, education wasn't first. Child labor was. Then you can have education, which wasn't worth the paper it was written on. It wasn't even state credited. Many of us, you know, I feel I lost a lot because of that. And I never will understand why these so-called Christians, these so good doers, want to hurt children. And if they still get away with it today because of a religious exemption. Religious exemption, a religious loophole, we're told. You know, how? How? If that child is getting hurt, why can't people step in there and do something in these wayward homes? They can't even go in there. You know, they know what's going on. They can't do nothing. Their hands are tied. Bull crap. If you know children are in there getting hurt, go in there and get those children. If you do it anywhere else, CPS will walk right into a hospital and take a newborn baby for a risk of harm. But you're letting these kids stay in there for years and being abused and abused and abused. Very horrific abuse. And now I look back, you know, if I would have came home and I would have been an adult saying some of the stuff I was saying, I wouldn't have believed it either. I mean, some of this stuff has passed most people's imagination. That's all I can say. You know, it's past their imagination, what we went through for money and votes. To flip Texas from Democrat to Republican. It was the craziest thing I've ever lived through in my life. And if you didn't know, see, evangelicals and fundamentalists supported abortion. They were not against abortion. It was a political ploy. And like 74, 75? Am I right around there? 75 maybe, you know. And then when they seen how many people, I got newspapers and stuff. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff they say. I mean, I helped a lot of stuff when I came home. You know, when I was saying stuff, a lot of people didn't. Actually, I got placed back in the mental hospital on 200 milligrams of Thorazine because they thought I was batshit crazy when I was telling the truth. And then you try to just forget it. You know, you block it. You don't want to remember. You just want to go on with life. And 7, 8 years ago, I come home, you know, working and stuff, flipping through the TV, and boom, there I was behind a fence, locked up as a child on Roloff Farm, on was it Living in Sin, A&E, Christian religious. We was at the beginning of. I mean, it triggered me so bad, threw me back in counseling, and it triggered PTSD. I remember every little thing now. I mean, I remember a lot before. I mean, but I remember so many details. And people say, how do you remember all that? It's a mental illness. You know, I don't want to remember it. Believe me, I want to forget, but I can't. And now it's up to me to stand with the rest of these children and tell the truth that this has been going on for almost 50 years, still going on, and nobody has stand up and help. I get so mad when I hear, save the children. Really? Because where are you when we're testifying to the Senate and Congress? Where are you when we need you? Where are you when we're passing bills and trying to get legislation to protect children? Because nobody's there. Very few outsiders have ever came, and I've been doing this for a very long time. And I don't want to hear it. It's weak words to me. Weak words. But you see, I watched what happened. I watched human monsters get trained. And now these are all through the states. All through